Hello everyone, welcome to ChessVisor, your wise choice to improve your chess. Let's talk about this game played between Anton Korobov and Magnus Carlsen. It was again from European Chess Club Cup round number 5. So here, before we start this game, if you are watching this channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. So here, Anton Korobov was handling white, so Magnus was handling black. So he opens the game with 1 d4. So after this move, Magnus plays knight f6. We have knight f3, developing move, and after d5 he plays the move pawn to e3. So instead of going with the traditional c4 idea, he goes pawn to e3, and we have a6 by Magnus, and we have b3. uh, Here Magnus simply develops the bishop out of the pawn chain, so bishop f5, we have bishop a3. Idea is very simple. When Magnus plays e6, he wants to grab the bishop and ruin the castling rights. So that's what actually happened in the game. So after e6, he simply captures the bishop. After king takes f8, he plays bishop e2. After knight c6 developing move, Anton Korobov simply castles on the king side. Since Magnus did not castle on the king side, or he couldn't castle, so now he is going to use the h file where the rook is belong. So he is going to simply push the pawn h5. We have pawn to c4 striking in the center. We have h4, and now the computer wants to play the move h3 in multiple variations in future and now also. But Anton Korobov never played that, maybe because this bishop could sacrifice itself on h3 sometimes when the things is open. I don't know, for some reason he didn't play. So here he plays knight c3 developing move. So h3 is a simple idea. He wants to simply block the pawn because once the pawn arrives on h3, you don't want to capture it. Simply you are going to push the pawn to g3, and that will create a long time weakness on g2, and we have to watch out for that. And another important thing is that in the game, that was actually the critical point actually that you are going to witness in a moment. So knight e4. Here Magnus wants to exchange the knight. So rook c1, rook h6. So he lifts the rook now. So he is bringing the rook into the attack now. After c takes d5, we have e takes d5, and now comes knight to d2. So pressurizing the knight, and Magnus is simply takes on c3. So rook takes c3, we have queen d6 developing move. We have queen c1. So simply forming this battery thing on the c file, maybe x-raying the c7 idea. Each and every time whenever there was no absolute threat, white needs to play something like pawn to h3, but never he played actually. So rook e8, now also it says h3. So bishop f3. So after this rook e7, he wants to defend the 7th rank so that the knight can move freely. And another important move is that in this position the knight wants to come to the b4 square. That means the threat is this may land on d3, right? The knight may land on d3. So to prevent that idea, you should play something like a3 to prevent that idea. In the game, he plays rook c5 instead of a3. From here onwards, the game is completely, or it's not completely, he's going to lose here from now. But the thing is, the game is slipping from here now on. So here he plays knight b4, threatening all sorts of poke here. So here he tries to defend it with some tactical move here, because your own bishop is hanging if you capture the knight. So he goes or saves the queen e6, and in this position he plays knight to b2, so defending the square. But he leaves actually this a2 square undefended, so that we will talk about. Going back in this position, the right way to continue the game is to simply put the knight on e5 and to cover the d3 square. But maybe black could go knight takes a2, but the problem is your knight would be trapped after queen to d2, so you are completely lost now. So the right way to continue for black is to simply kick the knight with f6, and after this we can simply go queen d2. After f takes e5, we can simply grab on b4, and still slightly black is better, but it is playable for white here. So after e4, bishop e2, c6 defending b7, queen e1 defending f2, rook f7, and all sorts of pressure is coming on the king side, but white could simply hold the game. But what happened in the game is different here, because he played knight b2. So in this position, Magnus did not hurry to capture, because still the knight would be trapped. So he simply plays the move h3, the move which was, the computer wants to play for both sides, for multiple lines. So here after g3, we have knight takes a2 finally. So what happens now if you play the same move? So queen to d2. The thing is, the b2 knight is simply obstructing your queen's line, and that's why it's not a big deal if white plays queen d2 now. And actually in the game it was played, so queen d2. So Magnus plays bishop to e4, trying to remove the key defender from the king side. So Anton Korobov simply retreats the bishop to e2. We have b6 hitting the rook now, and the rook does not have any escape square to go to. So he plays the move knight a4, and in this position he goes bishop h7. It's a very brilliant move in the game. It's because it's simply you are actually retreating the bishop, and also you are paving the way for the major piece, that the queen. The queen to e4 is a brilliant move here, so it is threatening a mate, and you're gonna lose the game sometimes later after this move. Instead of that move, there was another variation. That is bishop to b1, pointed out by many of the commentators live. So here we can go rook takes b1, and after queen e4, threatening the fork. So actually mating threat plus the rook is hanging. So bishop f1 defending the mate, and black could take on queen takes b1. But after that, white could simply drop the rook to c2. After knight b4, we have rook b2, queen a1, queen takes b4, and after rook c6. And now the thing is, black could simply try to involve the rook into the back rank, and other rook would also join the attack. So this is also playable, but the instant winning move is that Magnus's bishop h7 retreating move. That's why it's a brilliant move here. So rook e1, defending the bishop e2, which is sitting on e2, because in the variation which is about to come, you are going to lose the bishop. That is why if you cannot grab the the knight which is there on a2. If you grab that, then you are gone. So queen e4 threatening mate, f3, queen takes c3 check, rook f2, b takes c5, and then d takes c5, and you are lost again. So going back in the game, he plays rook e1 defending the e2 square, and after queen e4 threatening mate, here comes f3. And in this position, if you play something like bishop f1, then we can go queen f3. So idea is very simple. There are multiple threats are there. Bishop e4 is one of them, and another is that your rook is hanging. So it's all in all, it's a good position for black to continue. So going back in the game, he plays f3, gives up the pawn here. So queen takes c3 check. And after all this transaction, he takes on c7, rook h e6, king f2, defending. But now comes the third attacker to the bishop, which is pinned. So bishop takes d3, he gives up the rook now. So g4. After knight b4, bishop f5, rook 1 e2 check, king g3. After rook d6, he plays rook b7. And after g6, bishop to d7. And in this position, actually, Magnus played g5. And here, Anton Korobov simply resigns the game. It's because you cannot stop the mate here. Something like if you play some natural moves such as rook takes b6, and you are running into a mate in 5. So knight to d3. Rook takes d6, rook g2 check, king takes h3, and then knight f4 is a beautiful checkmate. So going back, if white tries some other moves like instead of knight, rook takes b6, if it takes with the knight, then also the same, but it would take another extra one tempo. Still white is going to get checkmated. And another variation is that rook b8 check. So rook b8 check, then we can go king g7. And we here after king takes h3, you are getting mated, so that is not possible. So you have to play something like f4 to avoid or delay the mate. So after g takes h4, king takes f4, we have rook takes d7, and this is also last position for white. So there are multiple variations are possible, but considering all of this, after g5, Anton Korobov simply resigns the game. So I hope you enjoyed this quick commentary on this game. If you do so, please give it a thumbs up. Still, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. As usual, this is Chess Wiser, your wise choice to improve your chess.